Rich has been with Teamstudio for quite a few years. He's been in the IT business for about 15 years, and he's been focusing on Domino development and Java development and deployment practices. So for the last couple of years, Rich has kind of been focusing more on the mobile side and working in Teamstudio on the Unplugged project, as well as other mobile development. So Rich is going to cover a number of topics today, but basically what he's going to do is take a Domino application and go through how to convert that to mobile using 3 different techniques. So the first technique he's going to cover is the XPages mobile controls that are in the extension library. If you're a long-time follower of these webinars, you know that we've covered that topic before. But Rich is also then going to take and use 2 other techniques. He's going to use JQuery Mobile to convert an application, and then he's going to use the new OpenNTF unplugged mobile controls to convert the application. So you're going to see 3 different approaches to mobilizing an application, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of each. So Rich, why don't you take it away? We'll switch control over to you. Okay, Rick, you should have
okay, thanks, Howard. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we hear you fine, and we're seeing your screen.
And let me just bring up this PowerPoint. Okay, so good evening, good afternoon, good morning to everybody. Thanks for the introduction, Howard. It's a good one, thanks. For me, it is a very early good morning. I'm based out on the west coast of the States, and I'm going to be actually spending most of this next hour and a bit concentrating on coding. So hopefully you're all Notes developers. I'm going to assume that you've got a little bit of XPages experience. You don't need a lot to follow what I'm going to do today. You're going to see a lot of contact information come up. Talling's already put a lot of stuff on there. My Twitter handle is Mobile Apps Raw, and I've been, as Howard said, been involved in mobile development and deployment for a number of years now. Just to start with then, just a quick product disclaimer here. I'm going to use, you know, IBM asked us to put this in, but I just as a hangover of what we do. So we're going to use Designer, jQuery, and the one I haven't got on here is the new released OpenNTF open source project mobile controls. I'm not going to cover Dojo Mobile today for a number of reasons. One being time, 2 being that TLCC have a course that focuses more on those sort of UI widgets anyway. And number 3 is that when Notes 9 is finally released, they're going to have Dojo 1.8 released within that, so it's going to be a little bit different to what you can get there as well. So maybe we'll have another webinar on that in the future. So as as Howard said, I'm going to mobilize an application. It's going to be pretty simple. The other disclaimer I want to say is that this session is really designed to be a lead-in for you to just get a little taster of the different approaches, and then go and find out yourself, you know, if you want to take on one or more of these particular frameworks. You know, we'll give you some pointers where to go to get some more information. The one thing I will say is there is a lot of documentation already on all 3 of these frameworks. So, you know, whatever you decide to look at, if any, there should be plenty of help out there. Okay, so very quickly before we start coding, let me just go through pretty much 2 or 3 slides. When we start on one of these projects, I've probably done about 40 or 50 or 60 you know, projects now over the last few years for different customers, whether they be proof of concepts or full deployment applications. And one thing I tend to always see when I go out to a customer or, you know, look at a project is that people have about 30 requirements on a board. You know, this is what they want to mobilize on an iPhone. let me suggest that it'd be a bit foolhardy to try and mobilize a full CRM application in one hit onto an Android or iPhone. So I would suggest definitely, you know, mobilize parts of these applications. People are still going to use their PCs and laptops for the stuff they're going to do every sort of month or 2 months. It's the day-to-day stuff we want to expedite and get people being more efficient in. Requirements, as I just said, limit them. I sort of recommend in the first iteration of deployment, just use 5 features. You're going to get so much feedback from users because as developers, we get things working and we're happy when they're working. And the first things users say is, well, that button needs to be green, or it needs to be an inch over to the right, or whatever, which you're sort of a bit exasperated with, and I'm sure you've all heard that before. But the quicker you can get this feedback, the quicker you can implement that, obviously, into your system. So basically, get feedback as soon as possible, and we put that in there, as it says there. So what to avoid then? I mean, this sounds obvious, but the 2 biggest problems that people have when looking at an application, even if they've been using a Notes application for 10 years, is poor UI. As developers, we don't tend to make great designers. I know I'm not, and I'll actually be, you know, I've been out there thinking the stuff I've been designing is really good, and then some graphic designers come by and completely blown me away. I would never think of that. So if you do have access to a designer, get them involved, because if you're like me, their stuff's going to look a lot better, you know, and we just get it working. And you know, again, I'm going to really hammer this point. Don't overload it with features. I mean, I don't even know anybody who knows 10% of what Microsoft Word can do. Never mind use that much. Just stick to the mantra of, you know, it does one thing and one thing well, and again, you'll get better feedback and better user adoption straight away, in my opinion. Okay, you might hear a couple of things like progressive enhancement. That's more like an official way of doing things. So like you have one set of XPages that will fit onto a screen of any size. And that's quite true, and that's how a lot of professional sites are these days. Going into this, I would probably recommend you start on the second part first, is have separate XPages for your web application and then your mobile web application. It's faster to debug. You've probably got more experience in using XPages for the web for a screen the size of a 15-inch laptop or bigger. For the mobile stuff, obviously, sort of use the progressive enhancement. You want one set of XPages for phones and tablets combined, and using CSS or themes to redisplay the content. But if this was my first application, I would have a separate set of XPages for the web version or the Notes client version and the mobile version, and just maintain them separately while you're getting more experience into this. Now, obviously, custom controls really help because you can contain your business logic within them and reuse those, and I'm just talking about the sort of UI parts here. Okay, so let's crack on. So what is the Mobile Controls Project? Well, Nicholas Heidelhoff and others created this in September 2010. It was designed to be part of the extension library and have a subset of controls that would help primarily with prototyping the mobilization of Notes applications. Now, the way you use these original ones, you had to inject your design work into their NSF. So you take a copy of their template and then you add your stuff in. You couldn't really strip out parts of it and add it to your existing applications because just the way the framework worked. So a couple of years in, IBM took these controls and they rewrote them and they actually put them in Designer. So if you're using 853 Upgrade Pack 1, you will get the rewritten controls inside Designer. Now, the thing is, there are two versions. So there's a version that comes with Upgrade 1 Pack. As I said, that's the official supported version. And there's also the version in OpenNTF, which is part of the extension library, which obviously is more evolved because people are touching that more often. so bugs get fixed faster and features get put in a little bit quicker. We all know how often IBM releases upgrades of Designer, so you're not going to get as many features and bugs fixed as fast there. However, these versions are not compatible, so you can't even write an application in a Designer that's using the OpenNTF version and then expect it to run on a server that's got the upgrade 853 upgrade pack 1. So, I mean, there's some jiggery pokery you can do to swap out jar files, but the fastest way and the best way is really just to use one version and stick with it. I'm going to use the official, I'm going to use the official upgrade pack 1 here to begin with. Like I said, the more you get into this and the more you want to use them, then you can start looking at whichever. But this is my recommendation is use the upgrade 1 pack on your client and server. Okay, so let's get on with some coding then. Let's move that over there. So what I have then is a very simple application. It's literally just one form and some views. I'm not going to spend too much time in here because I'm going to assume that you're all Notes developers, and this isn't about Notes development. It's about how to take a current application and mobilize it. So I've got a couple of views here, one flat and one categorized, with some employees in there with some departments. So I mean, nothing too strenuous about this application at all. We're just going to take this and mobilize some data. That's the key point I want to make here today. Okay, so what you'll see is if I create a new X page here, I'm going to call this I don't know, mob emp list, mob, yeah, something like that, mobile employees. Okay, and you'll see that in my upgrade 1 pack here, I get my mobile controls as part of the controls palette in Designer now. So what do we want to do? Right, so we want to, the way this can work is, and here's just one sort of strategy, is to take what they call a single page application layout and start filling that in, and this single page application really becomes your whole sort of internal framework of how the navigation's going to work within your mobile application. So to start with, we'll just drag one of those in, and I'm going to go through most, if not all, of these controls and show you how they work at a basic level. As I said, this is going to be very a lead into this. So you'll see there's not much to this, few properties and one facet here. So this facet, this little green dot, I mean, if you've got XPages experience, you'll know that I can just drag over the controls in there. So what I want to do is just drag a couple of these mobile pages in. And the mobile pages really are sort of your screens, as it were, that you're going to navigate to and from to show different data or different view information on there. So obviously these are contained within our single page application, so we want to give these a name. Now, don't fill in the name of the mobile page, that's actually the object name. It's in the all properties and it's called page name. So we'll call our first one emp list, pretty self-explanatory. And our second one, we'll call it emp details. So we give them both a name. And then if we go back to our single page container, what we want to do is when this X page is opened in on a mobile device, the single page application framework needs to know which page you want to bring up on the screen first. So what we can do is in a selected page name here, we can give this emp list. And this is a mandatory property that you need to complete. So once we've got that, what we can then do is start filling in what we want to see on the screens. So in here, page header seems like a good idea. Let's drag one of those into to our pages. I'm going to build two at the same time so we can navigate when we test this between the two. Page heading and page heading. Again, the title. What we want to do in this case is it's not the name again, it's in properties, it's the label. So we want to give this one employees for the list. And then in the second one, you can compute these. Obviously, the little diamond there, if you put the data source, and you can find out the employee's name as you switch and all that sort of stuff. But for now, we'll keep it fairly simple. So this is going to be end details, or just details, I suppose. You know, how it is. Okay, and these action facets here, if you want more sort of buttons and stuff, you can add them in there. But let's keep this simple. Now to navigate, obviously the first page is going to have a list of my employees like a viewing. So obviously when I click a row entry, it's going to come into this page and show my data for each employee. So to go back, I want to put a back button on here, and we have this in the all properties section as well. So the back property is actually just the label of the back button. So we'll just call this back. And then we use this move to property to actually move back to our list, the name of our first mobile page. So that's the navigation moving backwards. So let's just quickly save that. Now, before we test, we want to just put some data on here. So let's go back into our first one, in our first mobile page, and we're going to use, well, there's nothing in here really to set up some data. Now normally in an X page you'd go into the container controls and drag a view container into the X page. View containers are not supported with the mobile controls. What you have to use, you have to go into the extension library, which again this is part of Upgrade Pack 1, and drag this thing called a data view in there. So if I drag that into my page, and again you'll see now that it's very, very similar to a view container control in the fact that it will ask you for your data source and all the rest of it. So my view is going to be my employees, and we'll just give that a sensible data source name. And then the other thing you'll find if you've been doing anything in XPages is that everything gets put in the wrong place. So I'm just going to use the outline pane here and put my header above my data view. There you go. Now, if you've never seen this data view, this looks a bit intimidating now. So we've got this control that's made up of a whole bunch of different things, placeholders and facets and all sorts of stuff. Basically, it's sort of a layout container. So they've called these things page top left, whatever, and you can just drag and drop other controls in here, and they'll be positioned for you. And then the sort of crux of the data you can see in the white panes here. So you've got an icon category, category row, and all this sort of stuff here. Now we're interested in the summary and the detail parts of this control. So if we go down to our format, all properties format, you'll see that we have a summary column, which is going to be one of the columns of your employees, because each column row now is going to be, each column entry is going to be a row in our application. We'll see what I mean in a minute. So if we go back to our employees view, we'll see we've got name and date of birth, which I think the programmatic name's birthday. Yeah, okay. So name and birthday. So what we want in the summary, so format summary column, wherever that's gone, is open a new one, and we just want to put the column name in here. And not all of these areas are supported on the mobile side of things when you're using the single page application, and I'll show you that a little bit later. And then in our detail column here, where is it, detail? Extra column. We can have column name as birthday. Right. Now, we've got quite a bit in there, so let's test this. Now, what I'm going to do today, I'm going to actually use Safari to test this. What I found is that using IE or Firefox doesn't really, well, obviously you want to test on a real device, send it out to a server and then just test it on a real device. But to start with, if you want to expedite this, use Chrome or Safari to view your data. They're probably the closest to the actual devices because they use the WebKit internals, which the devices do as well. And well, obviously Android 4.1.1 uses Chrome, but similar sort of thing. You'll miss some CSS with IE and Firefox. So what I'm going to do is just preview this in our Safari browser. And if I do that, what do I get? Well, actually, what I get is a bit of a mess. So I get a header bar, which sort of looks like an iPhone header. Ignore all this sort of URL stuff. I could turn it off, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just concentrating on the content. And I get my links here with my name and my birthday here, but they're not formatted very well. And in fact, if I try and do anything now, it actually won't work. Nothing will work. There's two reasons for that. Now, number one, we need to give the view column somewhere to go to in our data view. So in our data view control here, we have our page name. Now, this is a little bit of a naming convention problem, if you ask me, because our mobile page, the page name was the page name and we had move to when we wanted to navigate. This page name in the data view is really the move to. So where do we want to go to? So from our data control in our emp list, we actually just want to go to our emp details. Yeah. And that should now work. Now we need a hash here because we're using the pages within the same XPage. So if you've ever done any HTML, the links with a hash in front of them will just go to an ID of a div on a page. So it's the same sort of thing here. Where this is how the sort of Ajax type thing works within this control. So now if I save that, and if I actually refresh this, it's still not going to work. Going to get errors. The links don't work. Now, what you need to do, and this is a must, is you must add the mobile IDM theme to your XPages. And what that'll do is two things. Number one, it will produce the correct UI for your device. But number two, it will actually add functionality so some of these things like links and stuff will actually work. So the way to do that is you need to go into Package Explorer and you need to find your NSF here. Let's just open that up. And go down to the WebInf folder, Web Content WebInf, and bring this XSP Properties pane up. If you go into the source, you'll need to enter XSP dot. Bear with me 1 second, because I've lost my cheat sheet. I think it's theme mobile. XSP, yeah, theme mobile. Okay. Apologies about that. XSP theme dot mobile dot page prefix. Now you can give this page prefix anything you like, M, mobile, whatever, M underscore, and any X page that starts with this, i.e. the prefix, this theme will be applied to it. So I believe I called mine, was it mobile employee list or mob employee list. So if I change that to mob and save it, just double check that, and then now refresh this. Let me reload this in. Here we go. Okay, so I just have to restart that. Now, instantly what you get now is something that looks a whole lot better. By default, it's going to show me the Android version. I'm not quite sure why, but it is what it is. And when I click through these now, obviously I haven't got any data yet because I haven't put anything on, but I've got this navigation, I put the back button in, and my links are working. Obviously I'm going to a new page within my XPage with the back button on there. So if I just bring this slide over here, what you'll actually see, make this a bit bigger, is if I ran this now, as I said, on our Android, that's what we get in our web browser. But you would automatically get the default look and feel for your iPhone or iPad as well. So just trust me that that will actually automatically work, and that's what they give you out of the box. And then here's the sort of data set that we'll create now. That's how it will look. So very quickly then, what we can do now, let's just close this down, is go into our second page, and what we can do is probably easier in the source pane here, after the heading. What we can do is just drag in a panel. Give it a data source. And this is going to be our employee form. Nothing magical about this, right? This is standard XPages stuff. And I'm going to leave it as create document because we could have a button on the front page to create a document, and we'll just drive our data view container to open this properly. So within the panel now, what we can do is drag our data set, so we could have name, we could have email, we could have start date, manager, department, whatever, you know. Just drag those in. And then what we can do is they give you a very nice little rounded list control that we can wrap the table in. And in the real world, I probably would strip out the table tags and use something else, but this is just for demo purposes. So now, go back to my design, I've got my data in here, my pages, and all the rest of it. And if I refresh this and open one, okay, my rectangles, okay, let me just take the rectangle out. I think I've got that in the wrong place. But oh no, it was just timing. Okay, so here was the rounded list here. I just didn't give them enough time. I think WebEx close things down here. Now I've got my my Chewbacca and my information here, email, managing department, all that sort of stuff. If I go back and pick something else, the data doesn't update. It's actually caching our first one here, our Chewbacca information. So what we need to do, and it's pretty evident if this happens in your application because you'll just know. So what you need to do is go back into the designer here, and on the second mobile page, go into the all properties, and what you need to do is change this preload. No, beg your pardon. Reset content to true. Now, by default, that is false, and it's pretty good if you've got like read-only information and stuff like that. But we want, we need to reset this for each person. So if I now just save this and go back into here, refresh it. Got our Chewbacca. And then we've got our Emperor, and you want to format some of the date pickers here, but this is because I used a date, and if I'd have made these read only, you wouldn't have got this weird sort of thing here. But this is just some of the you need to tidy some of the CSS or the themes up for this. But here you go. I mean, this is the information we need. So suddenly, within how long has that taken me? 20 minutes, maybe. We've got a view, and I'm explaining this quite slowly as well. We've got a view and information that's got a nice transition there, side by side. Now, what we can do using these rest of these controls is we could pull in a tab bar. Now, a tab bar is just a container basically for buttons. So we could pull this into our pager or a header here, something like that. and then just add a couple of buttons. There's just a one facet here, tab bar button, tab bar button. Give this something like, the first one, give it a label of create, and then the second one we could give it a label of delete, something like that, or whatever. And then what you'd need to do for these buttons is, again, you can't use the standard core control buttons. They don't work properly, I found in here. So you have to use these mobile buttons with the mobile events. So I've got my tab bar button and then a create one. What I can do is add action, and I need to go to the category that is the mobile action here. And what I found is, if we go to target page, which is emp details, and notice that there's no hashtag here on this one. This, again, a bit different. I found also that if you don't include a transition type, it doesn't work either. So we can pick slide or flip or something like that, and we can save that now. And okay, that's good. If you're using the extension library with 853 without a fix pack on it, you may get a compilation error here. When you pull in these events and these buttons, these might say XC actions or XC event handlers. Just change them back to XP and XC. I think they fixed it in either fix pack 1 or fix pack 2. So just be aware, if you get a compilation error up here, it's going to be something like that's going to read XC event handler. Just change it back to a P, and you'll be good. And then final test, if I refresh this, I've now got my create and delete buttons. If I hit create, it's going to allow me to, okay, I now need to put the save button and all that in. So again, you can start building on these applications, and you get some good stuff here. So that's as far as I'm going to take it with the mobile controls. As Howard said, I mean, we've covered a lot of this stuff before in the webinars I've had. So let's look at another couple of different frameworks. But first of all, let me just bring up the pros and cons. So what I found is the pros are very fast to develop with. I mean, you can pretty much drag and drop your way to a prototype, if not something deployable. They're included in designers. You're not going to import anything. It obviously fits within the XPage model that you have, and if you've never used the extension library before, they're a great lead-in. You can do something very quickly, and obviously there's a ton more stuff that I haven't covered that you could that you can use. You've got official support there, and they use a single-page application model, so everything's contained within the same XPage. The cons that I found are the naming conventions, as you've seen, are a little inconsistent. So they're using page name to do a couple of different things, and sometimes you need a hash and sometimes you don't. So there's a little bit of inconsistency there. This is the biggest problem for me, is the too many dependencies. If I just want to use a header, I can't. I have to use the mobile page and all the rest of it. So they are very tightly coupled into that particular framework. You must use the mobile theme. There could be a whole other conversation about this. Should themes only be for UI or for functional purposes as well? As you saw there, if I didn't use the theme, it actually didn't work. So I have to use the theme to get this thing functional. You can't change the default functionality of these things very easily. You can override them, but if you're beginning this sort of trek, you're going to use what you have there. You need 853 fix pack 1 on the client and server. That's a typo. 835 doesn't exist. And again, I've used the same con here, the single page application model. On larger applications, even if you're using custom controls, if everything's contained in one XPage, you're going to find that you're going to just have a ton of code to debug and try and find problems, and trying to maintain it becomes a nightmare. So what you need to do is break out of that single page application model and start using other transition types and things like that. So that's for another day. Okay, so let's look at jQuery Mobile. This is another type of framework that you can use in XPages. It's not reliant on 8.5.3. You can use it on 8.5.1 as well. Obviously, you still need 8.5x because of XPages to really use this within XPages. As we saw, there's a few small bugs in the others, so you might need something that doesn't quite work yet. You might want a different development methodology. If you've got any past HTML or web experience, then this, I think, personally fits better into a more streamlined web methodology. And jQuery Mobile is much more established. Of all the mobile frameworks, it's probably the most established, and it has, you know, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of eyes looking at it. So documentation is pretty good, and the bugs tend to be fixed pretty fast. Now, there's no silver bullet. There still are issues with this, especially when you're going to try and you know, take two frameworks like XPages and jQuery Mobile and marry them together. So it's based on jQuery, but jQuery is a separate library. jQuery is an abstracted JavaScript library, and you are required to have that when you use jQuery Mobile. It does depend on that. What it is a client-side functional JavaScript library. Now that's important because it doesn't really, whereas XPages, you know, you're changing data and you're calling server-side scripts and all that sort of stuff. This really focuses just on the client-side UI and functional parts for user experience. You can use a single-page application model or separate pages, and what it does is it runs through the DOM, not the Domino model, but the HTML document object model, and hijacks the elements and changes some of them. Now, that does put the fear of whatever into me because you know, you're going to have problems here. It does change some of the IDs of your XPage controls, and you know, once you start looking into this, there are a few things you will catch you out on. It does also come with a set of predefined themes and a whole bunch of icons as well, so it does help you as well. So how to get it? We'll go to jQueryMobile.com, and 1.2.0 has actually been released now, so you can just download that. When you try and download it, it'll ask you if you want to download jQuery as well. Again, all the great examples in the docs here for this, so you can get working pretty quickly with this. So what you can do is either in your XPage resources, link to the CDN container for this and just run it online, or as I said, you can download it from jQuery website. And what you'll get is a bunch of images, JavaScript files, and one CSS file. So we've got jQuery, jQuery Mobile, and a style sheet here. Now, if any of you try to import a JavaScript library into Designer, it does sometimes throw compilation errors, which is weird because it does work. The editor throws these things. It won't let you actually save them in the code script libraries. So if you just import them as files under your resources, we can still pull these in as resources into our XPages, and they'll work. So, and here's the code for that. You can cut and paste or just type in or whatever. Okay. So let me just show you how this works. So, close this down. What did I do to start with? Okay, so here's my resources. So I've pulled in images and my jQuery Mobile. Ignore these other two JavaScript libraries. I'm going to talk about them later. So jQuery Mobile, and I've got jQuery. I've got my style sheet here, jQuery Mobile 1.2, a bunch of images, and that's pretty much what I need. So, first thing to do, create a new XPage. We'll call this JQM Ants. And obviously, first thing we want to do is define our data source, employees. Nothing rocket science there. Okay. Now then what we want to do is put in some resources. As I said, we need to make sure these are available. So if we add our style sheet in here, get the source for that, and that's that one. And then if you try and add the JavaScript library, you're not going to find it because it's not in the code scripts, it's in the files. So if you've got an existing one, all you need to do is take it and then edit this to match what's in your files here. So ignore this. And I've got, actually I did put it in a h1.7.2.min.js. Again, if you're using the CDN stuff, I'm going to use this because just in case the network connection's not good. You need to load in jQuery before jQuery Mobile. So let me just copy and paste this. And I've got jQuery.mobile-1.2.0 document. Okay, so they're my resources set. So how does this work? Okay, I'm going to do most of this in the source because jQuery Mobile's really uses a lot of HTML5 structure. So what you do is you have your divs, HTML divs, standard stuff, with data role. And data roles are a property in sort of HTML5 that just determines what this particular container is. And Dojo is going to be leaning towards this way probably next year with Dojo 2. So these syntax will become more familiar for those of you who are going to carry on with this. So we have a page. Then we have another div, and this data role is going to be a header. And then pretty much anything we put in an H1 tag is going to be output to the screen. Close that div. And then we're going to have a div ID equals content. Okay, so really this is our basic structure for all of our jQuery Mobile pages, as it were. So what I want to do is just copy that, put it on my clipboard here. Okay, because I want to use that in each page, so it's just good to have a sort of boilerplate there. So my H1, these were my employee lists. This is going to be this one. And then I can start basically filling in my data. So what I want to do is I want a UL, an ordered list, and I want a data role of this view. And the CSS file will produce, like a theme, I suppose, will produce what I need for this to work. And then I want my allies within there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want a similar sort of list as before we saw in the other one. So these need to be linked. So if I just do a link here, and just do nothing to start with, and just copy that. All right, so we can have Mickey, Minnie, Donald, something like that. Okay, let's just take a look at this and see what happens. Now, straight away, you'll see a few things. What we've got. We've got our header bar, similar to before. We've got our links, which give you this sort of nice little hover over effect with the chevrons for free as well. And obviously, if we click something, it's not going to go anywhere because we haven't put anywhere in yet. So JQuery Mobile gives you some nice stuff for free as well. So if you just add to the UL something like data insert equals true, and save that, and refresh, we get that similar. Should get that similar. It's true, yeah. We should get the similar rounded box. I think if I refresh that, you'll see the edges there. I'll refresh that in a minute. That will probably give it a bit more padding. And the other thing we can do as well is have a data filter equals true. Save that. What this does is straight away, I'm a little bit worried now. Ah, here we go. There's something wrong with my CSS. It's probably my data role. Have I not? Content, div header. Ah, look at this there. This should be data role. Someone's probably put that on the Q&A thing, and I can't see it. Let's refresh that. There we go. So we've got a nice bit of padding there, and we've got this this data filter equals true. Basically gives you a free client-side search. So if I just want to search the Donald stuff, I can do that. I mean, that's literally less than a line of code, and you've got free client-side searching. Now, I'll only search on what's on the DOM and the screen, not in the database, but hey, for 3 words, what do you expect? So what we can do, we can use this. Now, what we want to do, we don't want these hard-coded information. We want our information. So what we can do is, after our UL, and of course, those of you who code properly would indent this and make sure you're getting the right, the right things in the right place. I'm going to leave that in for a second because I want to show you something. Great. Okay, so let's just use, now we want a UL again. We don't need that on there. And close up the other UL. And now we want a repeat control with our information in. So if we go to the controls, you can use the standard controls here. So repeat control, and again, obviously it puts it in the wrong place. And I want to give this repeat control a collection name, data row, something like that. And then we can start using, obviously, that data. And then what I want to do here is put in a li. And then what we can do is put a link in, XP link. And we can then format the label of the link to be something like data row name. And our target. Now our target, we're going to have to manually input this because we need to point to another page of our data, which is going to be a second page. So what we can do is actually just go into our. I want to make sure that the data row. Okay. Let's get bigger. Ah, yeah, I saw that flash up. Yeah, I could have formatted that with Control-Shift-F. Good point, thank you. I'll come back to that in a second. Okay, so what do we want to do here? We wanted this value of this link to go somewhere. So what we can do is do something like JQM and details.xsp, and then we want to just do something like action equals open document.
Rich, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it looks like your screen is frozen, so people are no longer able to see what you're typing.
Oh, okay. What can you see on the screen?
We see your main screen, but as you're typing, nothing shows.
Okay. Can you see a script editor on there? Or?
Rich, the last change that we're seeing is when you added in the repeat tag.
Oh, okay.
But everything after that, we haven't seen.
Okay, let me...
I don't think it's your system.
No, because you can hear me, because otherwise, the WebEx, you should be... I think you're looking at 2 minutes behind or a minute behind. Let me stop and reshare. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to reshare my desktop. Can you see anything?
We're seeing a big blank. We're seeing your new screen. We're seeing the link that you added within the repeat.
Okay, so that's where I am. Yeah.
And
okay,
your
thanks.
mouse is moving, so you're back on board. Thank you.
Okay, thanks guys. Appreciate that. Okay, so within the link, we want to just point this link to a page which I had started typing, but you guys couldn't see. So we need something like JQuery details.xsp, and we want to do action equals open document ampersand. So we're just filling in a URL thing here, document ID equals, and then we want to do data row dot get document dot get universal ID. Now, there are other ways to do this. I'm not saying this is the best way. I'm just saying this is a way, and I should have said that right at the start. There's anything I'm coding now, there's probably 2 or 3, 9, 10 different ways to do all this. But you know, this is the way that I've used before, and this sort of works for me. So now what we're going to do is in this repeat control, we're just going to set up our link here with our name of our person and you know, some sort of action on where to go. If I save that and run it, we have absolutely nothing. What's going on here? Let me close this down and restart. UL. What's the name of my UNs? Repeat control is UNs data row. Probably don't need this. Let's try that. Oops. Okay, there we go. So what's happened now? Well, our code structure was the same for our Minnie, Mickey, Donald, Goofy. We just used ULs and LIs. But injecting these repeat controls and doing it sort of mechanically through XPages has given us the correct data, and we've even got the links left, but we've lost all the formatting that JQuery Mobile gives us. So why? So here's another tool that I use quite a lot when I'm sort of debugging mobile applications, is the inspector or Firebug, depending on whether you're using Firefox or Safari, whatever, Google, Chrome. Bring up the inspector, and what you'll see, I mean, you could bring up the, in fact, it's probably better just to view the source, actually, at this point. So if I view the source of this page, what I'm going to see is for my hard-coded names, I've got it goes from a div content through to a UL, and then my li with my anchors in. Down here in the XPages, I've got a UL, and then it's injected an extra div between the UL and the li. Now, this is what the repeat control does. So you could do a couple of different things here. One, you could give a tag name to the repeat control of UL and knock out your manual one. But then you're going to have to add attributes and all that sort of stuff to it as well. So the easiest thing to do at the moment is just to go into the repeat control. If you go to the all properties and there's disable output tag, you hit true and save, then that won't produce that div. And if I just refresh this now, just close that off. If I just refresh this now, what we should get is, there we go. Our things looking exactly the same. So these are just little sort of things that you need to know to be able to use this stuff, and you know, trawling through the source code has led to people putting things on different sites to help everybody out. So now what I need to do is just go in and create my next text page, which is going to be JQuery details XSP. This is where we're going to go to. Oh, I don't need that one. And then what I can do now is go back to my clipboard and copy that framework that I had in earlier here, with my divs and whatnot. And then I can obviously give it my data source. That's my employee form. And whatever. And then in my header, again, I could programmatically put that in, but let's just crack on. And then in my content, I can just go straight into my data and again grab out things like email, manager, yeah, whatever. Okay, so that puts it all in the table. And now how am I going to navigate back? Okay, so in the header, what you can do is add a link that points to nowhere, but give the anchor tag data rel in this case, not roll, it's not a typo, of back, and then just give it a label of back, and that will automatically give you a back button to take you to the previous page. So now we can navigate back to our views list, and we should have a whole bunch of data in here. So let's just, for completeness sake, obviously it's not going to be this data, right? I should probably delete that. So here's our Chewbacca stuff, here's our Emperor stuff, and all that business. So there's only one thing that I want to do more in JQuery Mobile, because it's a bit of a gotcha, is just show you how to make this editable now, and then we'll move on. But basically, obviously this is read-only because we opened the document. So what I want to do is, after the table, we can do this in, well, we can do it in Designer, but let's do it here. After the table, drag a button in. Button wants to be called edit. Yep. And obviously the visibility, we've got to set that to not editable. And then what we want to do is go into our events and I mean standard stuff, right? So we want to just change document mode and make it into edit. Okay, now this is standard XPages stuff, but let's look at this. Reload this one. If I go through to somebody here, the edit button doesn't actually work. Now, this is because of the two frameworks you're using. If you imagine XPages engine has rendered the HTML as it sees fit, with all of its sort of tie-ins and hooks and all that sort of business. And then what's happened is jQuery Mobile has come across it like a sledgehammer and just completely destroyed anything that it had. So there's a bunch of different ways to get around this. Again, this is a sort of an intro. So the way to go around this, because you'll find out that some of your buttons and links won't work. Some will and some won't. Depends what you're doing with them. But if you go back into the X page with your view, or JQuery, and on our link, what we need to do is we need to go into the properties and all properties, and we need to add one of these attributes, these attributes here. And if we do this, the name of the attribute needs to be data Ajax, and you want to set this to be false. Just double check that. Yep. So data Ajax, and the value is going to be false. Now, by doing this, we've sort of we're reloading a fresh X page. So the other thing you'll need to do is just copy over your resources. So you're effectively writing a new X page here. In here. Or you'll lose the CSS when you do that, so just copy the CSS page over. So now, let's get this working. Reload that in just for completeness. Dark data, edit. Now you'll see jQuery Mobile sort of munges up the XPages field. So when you actually go and type something in, you won't be able to see what's in there. Again, the culprit of that is actually a CSS class called XSP input field edit box. But what I would do, again, just as a proof of concept today, is I'd just go through my input sexes and I would go to, where is it, the format, styling, disable theme is true. I'll just do it for 2 of these, and you can set this up in your things and whatnot, but that's out of scope for today. And if I reload this now, I might have to. There you go. You get the right sort of size boxing and stuff. So again, there's a couple of gotchas that you want to take into account if you're going to use jQuery Mobile, and you know, for your CSS and your other stuff, because you're using 2 frameworks. So hopefully they'll give you a starting point to go on with. Now, what I would do obviously is put save buttons and all that sort of stuff in there as well. Maybe something else on here. Get rid of that and all the rest of it. But you know, that's for you to do. Okay, so just finally then, in the last sort of 15 minutes, for me, is I want to show you. Oh, let's just go back to the pros and cons of this, because there's some other things as well that you might want to look at. Okay, so jQuery Mobile, very fast proof of concept. You've seen in a matter of probably 10, 12 lines of code, I can get something on there. It uses standard web languages. I mean, obviously you've seen what I can do by injecting some of your XPage controls as well, but the whole structure of it is using these web languages. Less code is generated, but I mean, is that a pro? I don't know. I mean, I put it in there. Oh, your theme builder, you can actually add themes to these as well. They come with A to E, blue, black, white, yellow, and red, I believe. but you can actually build your own themes. So there's something on the site there that's really good for that as well. And like I said, there's honestly hundreds of examples online on how to use these. Now the cons to this are we've noticed some performance issues with this as well, and a lot of flickering between screens when you're using it on a real device. So again, it depends on the quality of the app you want to build as well. As we saw, it does clash in some areas with XPages. So the links, it didn't work. I mean, the buttons didn't work before I hijacked the Ajax and turned it off. And you will need more Ajax knowledge if you want some more advanced apps as well. So again, this is an introduction. None of this is easy when you're looking at converting a complicated application to mobile. But in this case, you'll need to I don't know what was going on with my spelling there, but you'll need to get a lot of Ajax, more Ajax experience. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is the new mobile controls project that we've donated into OpenNTF. Now, don't be confused by the word unplugged here. Unplugged is our sort of branding for this, for the Teamstudio mobile stuff. So these were originally designed for the unplugged product, but with the new release that came out last Friday, these will run on mobile web browsers as well. So Unplugged is a mobile development product from Teamstudio, as Dan was talking about earlier right at the start. The Unplugged mobile XPages controls is a free OpenNTF project that runs on both web browsers and Unplugged. Myself and Matt White started this several months ago and released the first ones in December for the Unplugged product. And as I say, now they run on both. These are all open architecture. So and a good example of this is, at the moment the UI is fixed, but if you want to go in and change the UI sort of colors and fonts and stuff are fixed. You can't change them at the moment. But they're open, so if you do need to change a color or something, just go in and change it. I mean, we'll probably get around to having some sort of palette structure or whatever, but again, everything's open. They're really designed to be independent. So one of the things that myself and Matt and others were looking at were we didn't like the dependencies. If we wanted to use a header or a footer, we just wanted to use a header or a footer with our own stuff. We didn't want to have to use any sort of more heavyweight frameworks than just give me something I can use as a control on the page. So what we've done, I won't say there's no dependencies, there are a few, but there's a lot less. So you can have your own XPages and then just drag a database search part in, or an accordion categorized control field in, something like that. So you can work with other frameworks within this as well. So we've got 12 so far. In fact, there's probably a bit more than that now because we've been working on some stuff for our next release. The workspace one is just designed for the Unplugged product, but everything else you see here is designed for both. And for those of you who use Unplugged, there will be differences automatically between how these are run on a web browser and Unplugged. So a good example is because Unplugged runs your applications offline, if you drag a footer in, you'll get an automatic sync button in the bottom left-hand side for your Unplugged apps. Obviously, on a web browser, it doesn't sync, it's nothing because everything's online live, so that just doesn't appear. We can determine whether or not you're running on Unplugged or a web browser, so you can use exactly the same XPages for online real-time data and offline data if you want to. So each control comes with the documentation, which is both on a wiki and on OpenNTF. And as you drag the controls in, we've updated the designs of the definition to show you how to use these as well. You'll see that as I go through the example. The UI, as I said, is fixed at the moment, so you're going to get something that looks like this. But the progressive design that we've used means that you only need to bring in one control, and they'll look different for tablets and phones. And they work on well, Android and iOS as well. You know, just the same set of XPages. So how do you get them? You go to OpenNTF, you run the project search, or just get the list of projects. unplugged XPages mobile controls, click that download button, job done. As I say, the documentation's there. We've also got a wiki, which I'll come on to in a second, but what you get is you get some XPages that you may need depending on what you want to do. The custom controls, and again, you don't have to use all of them, just take what you need, and then some script libraries and a couple of style sheets. So again, it's sort of the same thing as these other frameworks like jQuery Mobile. Now we are trying to get this into a sort of a downloadable thing through Designer, but we're working on that at the moment. At the moment, you have to copy them down and copy them across. Reference documentation is on live on GitHub. That's the most up-to-date stuff, and all the changes and fixes and stuff go in here. So this is the real-time doc with code and examples and all the rest of it on there. We did put a PDF on OpenNTF as well. Okay, so let's have a look at how this works. What I've done is, okay, so here is the database that you would get unplugged custom controls library. And as I said, what you get is all the custom controls, etc., etc., and you get a whole bunch of XPages. Now, most of these XPages are actually demos. So if you run the demo, you'll see all of these controls working. So we've got navigators, workspace, all that sort of stuff. And there's one somewhere at the bottom here, UMP main, that actually will run all of the different demos for you. There's a couple that you will need, like UMP save document. So pretty much, this is all in the documentation, but there's a couple that you will need. UMP save document, and for the accordion, you'll need UMP accordion view list. So if I just copy these two, and paste them in my application here. I believe I did include the files, yeah. Okay, so here are my, yeah, there were my files, and in the script libraries, I've got unplugged.js and unplugged common. If you want to do searching, you'll need the search ones as well. But again, these are all the mandatory files required are in the documentation for each control, as you'll see. So I may have even put these in. Yeah, I put them in already. Okay, so we should be ready to go. Let me just bring this out one pane down there. So let me create a new XPage. Oops. And I'll call this UMP ent. And what I want to do is, the first thing I need to do, and this normally catches me out, but I remembered, is bring in the CSS style sheet as a resource, which of course I didn't copy over. Give me one sec. Some of these are used for the demo, so paste that in there. Okay, start again. Add in a CSS, unplug CSS. Okay. Now, what I can do is go into my custom controls, and I have these, obviously they're the ones I copied over. And if I want a header, I just pull in a header. And again, it tells you what you need, the required files, which are already in there, which are copied over. And in my custom properties, I can just fill these in. So if I want a back button, just put the label. If I want it to point to a specific URL, give it the page to go to. If I want to search, I can choose between a local search, which is similar to the jQuery Mobile one that we saw, or I can go and into the backend database. If we've got 3,000 or 4,000 documents, I can search on that as well, and then present those on a search page. My title is employees, same as before. And this views button is for a navigation control to show you different categories or higher level pages that you want to show as a slide in and out sort of container on the left. But I'll leave that for now. So I've got my header bar. Then I want my footer bar. Again, some properties to fill in. Basically, I don't really want to do anything apart from we do allow you to put a new document target. We give you some free stuff about that. So say this was, what was it called? JQM, we can use the same one. JQM details .xsp. And then we want some content in the middle, right? So now, we'll go to the source. In between here, all I have to do is put a div id equals content. Okay. And I can start using some of these as well. Now, here's where I said there is a little bit of dependencies. Some of these, like the accordion, which is for categorized views, and the flat view, you need to use these in a scrollable area. We use something called iScroll under the covers, and this scrollable area, there's literally nothing to it. It's just one facet in the design. What it is well, what it says on the tin, it gives you a scrollable area on a page. We had issues trying to have independent scrolling areas on like iPads, and this was the way we got around it. So once you put one of those in as a container, then you can use this accordion or flat view or whatever. So if I drag the accordion in, again, this is just going to give me some properties to fill in. It's basically a categorized view control. So my database name, I mean, blank is local. You can pull in stuff from other databases. My position, if I had that views navigator, I could have it menu aligned, but I just want it left aligned. Again, this is explained in the document. The view name, employees by depth, I'll do this as a categorized view. And then the X page that I want to go to, which was, what was that, JQM, actually, we've got it. Yes. And there was, if that was created, I could have put a pull down there. That will go. So once that's saved, let's just test this now. Okay. So what do we give you out of the box? Okay, so automatically then, we've got this header bar with a search and a home icon if you put a home page in there. The search icon, as before, with the JQuery Mobile, will bring up a search bar. If we hadn't a tablet, it would automatically come as a box to fill in. Again, you don't have to do any work here. And we've got a new button for our new page that re-renders depending on whether you're running on a tablet or a phone. Our information here, our employees by department, we've just got our information in our view, has automatically been converted into a accordion list for you without you having to do anything. So obviously with a flat view, you wouldn't get the tappable elements. It just comes up with the type, with the whatever title you give it, plus your information. And then our links here are going to go to a page that doesn't exist at the moment. So to expedite time here, I'm not going to go through as much as with this as the other ones, because if you like what you've seen so far, you can go and get them and play with them. But basically, what we've done, if I actually show you this on a real phone, bear with me 1 second. See if this works with WebEx. So you should be able to see my iPhone on there, and I'm using something called Reflector. And so this is actually running on the phone. So here's my information here, and if I go through to the document, what you can do is just drag and drop your way. We give you 3 buttons on it's called the UMP Form Viewer and Form Editor. Now, one difference is we found the performance much better by having 2 XPages for mobile devices, one for read-only and one for edit mode, rather than trying to change the same XPage from edit mode to read mode. That's just what we found, so that's what we used. So if I click edit here, it's actually going to bring up another XPage, and you get all these sort of free spinners for the iPhone and stuff, depending on what type of control you're using in XPages. So obviously this was a list box control, so we automatically render those as an iPhone screen if you haven't got to do any work like that. And obviously I can go and just save all that wherever your senior management is in there now. So you can do all that, and again there's videos that we've done on these controls and blog posts and stuff like that. But I think you'll agree that to get something pretty quick on a screen from a view and forms, you know, is very fast. So with that, and I know we've sort of I've been on for just over an hour now. Let me oops. This is a PowerPoint button. Okay, so the other thing we did with these controls is we built 3 of the standard templates, and we've given these away for free. So if you've got any apps that run on the journal or the notebook, you know, Create, Post 8.5, whatever they call that now, the DocLib or the Team Room, all you have to do is go onto our website, download the templates, and do a design refresh on your current applications. They won't look any different in a Notes client or a web client, but you'll just be able to automatically run these on the phones now, and you'll have that sort of black and grey, blue look and feel that you've just seen there on that. There is one restriction on rich text fields. We can read it, but we can't. If you edit it, they're going to go back as regular text, but that's just a detail that, depending on how you use these applications. But what you'll get is something like this. So this is a journal entry in a notebook, and there's no coding to be done with that. You just apply these templates to these NSFs that you've already got. And obviously the individual controls here are what you're downloading from OpenNTF to build your own applications. So the pros and cons for those, very fast as you've seen. Again, you can drag and drop your way to a mobile app quite quickly. They'd be better integrated once we got into the catalog and can do a download from OpenNTF. The controls were made because we were frustrated with other frameworks having too many heavy features. So a lot of the performance issues that we saw in jQuery Mobile were just the fact that the JavaScript was just trying to do too much. So when we investigated this, we just really made these things so light that they didn't have much to do in terms of, you know, code to run. So, you know, to just do what each one does individually. Extremely easy to learn how to use them, and you can extend these how you want. Now the cons, that first one's eliminated now because we've actually done this with the 1.2 release that was last week, and they do work on mobile browsers. As I said before, they do have a fixed look and feel. That may change, and again, you will need Designer 853 and 853 Server because we use some of the tags that were released with 853. So in summary then, over the last sort of just over an hour, we had right back at the start, we had some basic planning principles. Then we mobilized an app 3 different ways using the Mobile Controls project. We used the JQuery Mobile project, and then we used the Unplugged Mobile Controls for OpenNTF. And hopefully covered some dev tips that really caught us for a few hours, you know, as we were doing this. So I'll hand it back over now to Howard and Paul, who are going to host the Q&A session. And I hope that you've enjoyed this and learned maybe something.
Oh, Rich, that was awesome. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yep.
that was great. Really like that comparison between the 3 different frameworks. Howard, are you on board here?
I am here. Yes, Rich. I was really impressed by the Unplugged project. I think that had a really nice look and feel. I'm going to have to go out and get that and play with that.
Thank you.
And let's address, I'll pick up a first question related to the Unplugged. So Fabio was wondering if the Unplugged project will work with 851.
No, you need 853 because we use things like the underneath the covers. We use things like the actress tags that weren't supported with 851. So unfortunately, you will need 853 to run that.
Okay, and a second follow-up question from Fabio. If I'm working in 851 and adding a lot to this. But if I'm working in 851, what are my choices now for developing mobile applications?
jQuery Mobile, definitely. Dojo Mobile, definitely. And the OpenNTF extension library version of the mobile controls as well.
Okay.
I think, Rich, in the OpenNTF, the extension library in 851, I'm not sure that had the mobile controls, but there was a separate project for mobile controls back then. I'm not quite sure what version that starts with.
Oh yeah, no, I think they only merged them in 852. You're right. So I'm not even sure if the other projects still are out there now. It may be, but yeah, you might want to do a search on mobile controls in 851.
And just a general point for folks, you know, I know back in the Notes days that you kind of upgraded very infrequently. In the XPages world, you know, whatever designer and server is running your XPages, you need to get in a different mindset. You need to be upgrading a lot more frequently. 851 is to put it mildly, kind of ancient, and there are a lot of changes, a lot of fixes, a lot of performance changes since then. And I think you need to condition, you know, as developers, we need to sit down with the admins and say, this is a new world, and you need to upgrade much more frequently than you might have done in the past, where you might have skipped point releases and maybe every 2 or 3 you would upgrade. It's, you know, there's just so much new stuff coming out in every point release. And I would have to say the same would hold true for moving to 9.0 from your 8.5.x version. You know, get on the upgrade bandwagon as soon as you can, as soon as you get your testing done. So, Paul, do you have a question ready?
Yes, I have a question from Cesar. I know the recommendation about cutting features, but is there any recommendation when your app starts growing? When do you have too many screens, too many pages in your single-page application?
Yeah, and just context for that, Rich, that was back when you were talking about the mobile controls from the extension library / update pack 1.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're talking simple apps, I wouldn't go with that single-page application. I mean, really something like a corporate phone book's not too bad, because you normally have like maybe 1 or 2 views per state or per office or everybody, and then the same form on the back end to show the data. Once you get into more complicated ones, I personally wouldn't use it. I mean, there's even myself and Matt White, you argue about this, but I mean, if you think back when we started writing notes applications and everything was chucked into sort of one form or whatever, you know, and we even one database, and they get layered and layered and layered. You're just asking for trouble if you go out and try and write a massive application using a single-page application framework. I wouldn't recommend that. I would try and split them over different XPages and use different navigation features.
Okay, thanks, Rich. And then we have another question from Gian, and he's wondering about data sources other than Domino, such as relational web services, etc.
Yeah, certainly you can use web services in XPages now, and there are other webinars. You guys might even have something on that, but that's not, I mean, today was more sort of an introduction one, but you can certainly use that. There's other connectors on the back end that you can use through Notes to hook into relational database systems. You know, there's even some stuff on OpenNTF now that provides that for you for free.
Right, that is in the extension library, not in the upgrade pack 1.
That's correct.
And I wasn't sure if I guess the answer, you probably haven't tried integrating that into any of the mobile controls, but obviously with the jQuery or Dojo Mobile, that wouldn't be an issue. With some of the other controls, it may or may not play well. I'm not sure, you know, if you have the ability to choose data sources other than Domino for the unplugged controls.
No, but you can use REST services and things like that, because you know, at the end of the day, it's just JavaScript and HTML that's being produced. So, in fact, that's one way that I'm looking to go more now, is through services rather than you know, other mechanisms. If someone's got a REST service, that's probably a better way to go.
Okay. I have a question, and I just posted it, and I think I've lost it. Oh, here it is. David was asking, with the jQuery Mobile, why not put the jQuery libraries in the web content via the Package Explorer? Is there any difference in performance?
Not that I'm aware of. So you could do that. Yeah, just put them under the web content stuff. Shouldn't be any issues there at all.
Okay, Rich, here have two similar questions from Michelle and William, and they're both asking about what about rich text fields that have file attachments in them, and what happens when you're in read mode and edit mode and when they get saved.
Okay, so oh, okay, this could be quite a long answer, but let me try and pare it down. With the unplugged controls and jQuery Mobile, you can just use things like file upload controls to upload attachments. Download, they will. You can render those as well, and you can just use. There's ways you can call external links to render things like you know, Excel spreadsheets with different readers on the device. We haven't built anything in to read those. Images are different. Obviously, we support images, but if it's in a rich text field, at the moment, with all of these frameworks, as far as I know, you might have some problems if you're trying to edit something on there. Just trying to think. Actually, for the server side, you should be fine. You can open them. I mean, opening the attachments the same as how it would be through a web app. I mean, images, we use that sort of dollar file and then put the image in. For attachments, and whether it's an image or not, make sure that you use some sort of conditional validator in the visibility tag or something like that, because if you try and open something that doesn't exist, your application is going to crash. We've had that a few times where that's happened. So we, you know, just for safety's sake, we always try and you know, wrap that in some conditional logic there, especially if you're using sort of the get attachment list method. That tends to allow if there's nothing available.
Well, Rich, I think there's also an issue, I know, with the using the Dojo, and when this comes up when you use the OpenNTF version of the, you know, the mobile controls, that the Dojo editor, the rich text editor, is not supported on mobile in 1.61, and that's the version included in 8.5.3. So when you're using the mobile controls, there basically is no rich text editor that you can use on mobile. Now in 9.0, I think they use a later version of the Dojo editor that at least renders the editor, but there were still some bugs last time I tried it, and things like buttons and the drop down for fonts and stuff didn't really work well. So I think when it comes to rich text editing, using a rich text editor on mobile, I think you're kind of out of luck in the unless there's something in jQuery. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
No, well, what we've done before is you render it fine, and it renders as you would expect.
Yes, it renders fine.
Writing back, I think there's an issue under the DXL round trip underneath, to be honest with you, in the lower levels. So what we've done is we've had like a separate input text box as plain text, so someone could fill in an additional comment, and then when it's back on the server, then we run an agent just to append that text field to the rich text field as regular text, you know, and at least it gets all put in the same field then.
Yes, that's a good technique.
Okay, another question from David. Do you need to take into consideration the different versions of iOS and Android that are being used to access the application?
Yes, yes, especially older ones. He's probably asking that through the whole different scale of frameworks, but just sort of backtracking, with the unplugged controls we've written, we support iOS 4 and above and Android 3 and above. Those were the sort of minimal versions that supported a lot of the better CSS. They were more sort of compliant with each other. I've tried running a lot of stuff that we've written now on old Android 2 phones, and the CSS doesn't even render properly, and obviously other things might not work as well. So yeah, if you've got users that are still using Android 2.x, that can be a problem, or iOS 3.x, that can be a problem as well. Now, we don't really see that much in the field anymore. Most people are up to iOS 4 or Android 4, or even, you know, some of the older tablets have still got 3 on, but that tends to be fine. So if your users can upgrade from 2 to 4, for Android especially, I would recommend that. Again, we know some people do have these types of devices, but I haven't really seen them in the field.
Okay, thanks, Rich. We also had, this kind of follows on to what you just said, a question about how can you test the mobile applications, and is there any particular browser to use? We have actually did a webinar a couple months ago that's at at our site that you can get the recording of, and we did cover in that webinar section on testing mobile apps. So there are some browsers that are probably better used than others. I know Rich was using Safari. You could also use Chrome, and both of those browsers you can set up to emulate the user agent in the mobile browser, so you can kind of fake out the user agent to make the server thinks that it's an actual real mobile device. Those aren't really 100% fidelity in the testing. The other option is if you are testing Android devices, you can go to Google and get the Android emulator, and that will actually emulate a Android phone on your desktop, and you can choose the different operating systems. So you could test some of the older browsers if that was a need to do that, or the older mobile devices. And then for the iPhone, if you're running a Mac, you can get the iPhone SDK or the iOS SDK from Apple and try that as well. And then there's, you know, as I said in that webinar that we have recorded on our website, we talked about some other options too. Rich, you have anything to add to that?
Just be a bit careful if you use the Safari and Chrome, because sometimes the UI elements lie. They're not, like as you said, the fidelity is not 100%. So you know, just obviously for speed, I would use the browsers to start with, but then you know, you can't beat testing on a real phone, really.
Okay, just a couple of general questions about the recording for this webinar and downloading the slides. So yes, the webinar is being recorded, and there will be a follow-up email and slides as well. Rich?
Yeah, we can get the slides. I'm not sure where we'll post them. We'll probably post them on the Teamstudio site somewhere. We'll speak to Tally. We can put that in the email afterwards.
Okay. And a question from Richard. Is there an advantage of the mobile controls over a responsive web design approach?
Which mobile controls? The IBM ones?
Well, let's take all of the frameworks that you presented over responsive web design.
Okay. Well, okay. So as I said right back at the start, I mean, what I've found over the last few years is that moving into this, I would have a separate set of, use the same data and the same business logic, but a separate set of UI files for web and mobile. I think as we've moved through sort of the last year or so, it's become more apparent that people expect the phone and tablet versions to look more native, and sometimes that is just really difficult to do with responsive web design. Although, that is the sort of proper way to do things in inverted commas. So what we've done with our mobile controls is just expected that people will use them on tablets and phones as additional pages to their applications, because the other thing is we don't expect a lot of these Notes custom apps to be fully convertible to mobile devices. They're just too big. Like I said, I mean, the classic is a CRM app. I mean, you probably don't need every part of that functionality on a phone. So, I mean, and once you're in there, it really doesn't matter what you're using, because you're not really using responsive design anymore. Obviously, from a maintenance point of view, it's going to be far faster to fix bugs in a responsive web design, because you've got everything in one place. And if you've got access to people who have done a lot of web development outside of Notes before, or just web development in general, then obviously that's a good thing, because you can use their expertise, because that's been around for quite a few years now. Well, I'd say more than 10 years, I should think. So there are some experts on that sort of technique. But again, moving into this from a Notes development perspective, to start with, I'd use separate UI, XPages for separate UI.
Thanks, Rick. Rick, are you aware, or can you speak to the mobile support built into Notes and Domino 9?
No, I don't know at the moment. I'm looking at that now, and I don't really want to comment, because probably whatever I'm going to say is not going to be accurate.
Howard, can you speak to that, Howard?
Well, the mobile controls that Rich first covered, the first approach he did, are built into Notes and Domino 9, so there is no need to get a update pack 1 or the extension library. As far as the other approaches, you would still have to add those, either the jQuery or the unplugged controls.
But Rich, could you comment on the OpenNTF Unplugged project? Are we going to see support for that in Release 9?
Yeah, that should work regardless. Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the OpenNTF project, I mean, that's not finished by any means. We've already got a next bunch of controls that we want to add into that. If anybody wants to contribute, please feel free, even if it's just ideas and stuff. I mean, if you want to help us with the coding, that's fine. It's purely open source. But we're looking for other ideas from the field, things that people want. We will be putting them into Notes 9. They should just work, but we'll just do some more testing first.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Does OpenNTF use the jQuery or jQuery Mobile at all, or is it written in JavaScript, or is it in any particular language, and can that be extended?
Yes. Okay. So the technologies we've used in our controls are HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and jQuery. If you looked when you downloaded the files, you'd have seen that we do include a version of jQuery in the download pack that's sort of in one of the files. We use that under the covers because we've used jQuery for a long time. We do not use jQuery Mobile, just jQuery, and that has allowed us to incorporate in our own projects a lot of other jQuery plugins, which I didn't have time to look into today, but there's some good things like calendars, there's signature captures, all sorts of other things that have been around in jQuery widgets for a while. So we've got experience to just plug those in and use those. So we find that the jQuery core, the product, the abstracted JavaScript library, is a very good one, so we use that a lot. I mean, you could use Dojo if you wanted to. There's no reason why not to. But, and certainly extendable, yes. We leave everything open. Or everything's in the custom controls and the one CSS file and the one JavaScript file. So if you want to change anything, just dip in there and you know, hack around with it. We won't obviously support any changes, but if they're good ones, then we can obviously reincorporate them back into the project.
And Rich, how do you see Bootstrap fitting into this mobile environment? That's a question from Esteban.
How do we see what, sorry?
Bootstrap, the Bootstrap environment. Have you tried using that? Do you have any comments on how that might fit into the mobile development world?
No, not currently.
Okay, looking at the time, we're running out of time. Maybe this is our last question from Paulo. For an approach where loose coupling is a strong requirement, which framework would you recommend, Rich?
To begin with, our controls project, because I mean we've really tried hard to have no coupling. So you could actually just take your current XPages and add any of those widgets to them. They're just custom controls at the end of the day. So I would suggest that to begin with. There's some Dojo Mobile stuff as well, and in fact, I would just say some of the jQuery widgets out there, if you're going to use jQuery, you could just drop those in, and they work very well with XPages as well. The high coupling ones are the mobile control, the IBM mobile controls, and the jQuery Mobile. They're both the real. They're both designed to be used with their own frameworks and not much else, to be honest with you.
Okay, I think we're at 12 o'clock. Rich, thank you very much for a very informative webinar and a great comparative look at the different frameworks for mobile development.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, thanks, Rich, and we hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and thank you so much for attending.